I Love San Bernardino County show with your host, Ipiani Lockhart, and also main host, Robert Porter, who's on vacation. What up, Robert? What up, Amy? I hope you guys are enjoying your time there in the California Sierras. We miss you, but we're here, so enjoy yourself and have a great time. Also, we want to shout out our sponsors, Max Zaire of Celebrities Bar and Grill here in San Bernardino, and they also have a Juice It Up in Calamasa. A quick tidbit, Max Zaire was just on the Inland Empire Wire because there was a car accident, sadly, in Riverside, I believe, and him and another individual quickly acted to help the people that were trapped in their cars. So our sponsor is not only an amazing sponsor, but he's plays the role of a hero in our community and helping people in need, you know. Also, we want to shout out our standout of the week, which is Cal State San Bernardino. Go Yotes. Yes. For real, Yotes in the house. We're highlighting Cal State San Bernardino because they had an amazing Inland Empire Community Conference a few weeks ago that brought in a lot of different entities and in many different arenas that are doing great work throughout our community and brought everyone together to learn from one another and network with one another. It was just a beautiful event, and I'm so proud of it because that's my alum as well as many of my family members as well as Robert Porter as well. So shout out to the Yotes, and that's our standout of the week. The standout of the week is presented by Ben Chavez, Lineages Services. Thank you, Ben, for sponsoring the standout of the week. We greatly appreciate you. And I know you're kind of a private man behind the scenes, but I would love to bring you on the show one day if you ever have the willingness to do so. We would love to have you. With that being said, we have an amazing show today. As I said, I'm Ipiani Lockhart of Motivational Realizations. We have our amazing guests here today. I'm going to let them go ahead and introduce yourself, starting with my left.
Hi, my name is Vonia Quarles. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Starting Over Inc. We are a transitional housing and reentry resource provider, and we operate in Riverside County. I know this is San Bernardino. We love San Bernardino, too. Hey now. We operate in Riverside County and LA County, and we do some other stuff we'll probably talk about at some point in the show.
Well, good evening. My name is Dr. Roberto Cordero, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Black and Brown Opportunities for Profit Center, where we develop and train entrepreneurs to make the build, grow, and scale businesses into a reality.
Beautiful.
Hello, I am LaShawn Spivey Angeletti, the one and only Dream Cultivator of Dream Cultivator Enterprise, and I help super women take their cape off and learn how to relax and reflect, refresh, retreat.
Definitely, and our amazing guest host for today. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Yo, what's up, everybody? My name is Antonio D. Miles, and I'm here to be here. I host the Empire Podcast. I got my book on deck, and let's have a good time today.
Definitely. And before we go into the interview, I just want to take like a moment of silence. One of my coworkers, Kelly, that works with me at Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity, yesterday she lost her partner, Jared. So we want to honor his memory, as well as one of our hosts on Let's Dine on the network on KCAA, Alan Borgen and Isabel Bussey. Sadly, they had lost their life in a tragic car accident the other day in Missouri. So we just want to take a moment of silence to honor their light and just, thankful for who they were and the light they did emit in this time. So if we could just take a moment of silence for about 10 seconds or so. Definitely. And to our listeners out there, for any of those that have a faith or ascribe to a belief system, we just ask you to offer prayers for the family members that are dealing and grieving with the loss of the loved ones, as well as if you can find the heart to pray for the conflicts throughout our world. Life is a gift and life is precious, and we should be cherishing life. We shouldn't be fighting over resources or anything that leads us to want to destroy one another. We're all going to leave, so why rush that? There's no need, and the world is self-sufficient. It has enough. It's maintained humanity for millions of years to this very day. So with that being said, thank you for those that are offering their prayers. So on a lighter note, we have an amazing show here today. The guests that are here today are doing amazing work throughout our community as far as empowering women, empowering people that are returning to society after going through incarceration, doing preventive work as well. So with that being said, Vonia, we would like to talk about you and your amazing organization, Starting Over Incorporated. Could you share what was the impetus to make you Starting Over Incorporated? What made you want to manifest that?
So in 2009, when Starting Over started officially, I had been sober for a while, and I recognized that a lot of people who were like me, who were getting sober, needed to get sober. Not everybody needs to get sober, but some of us do. And so those of us that needed to be sober, there weren't a lot of places for women to go and find that safe space, right? A lot of them were in situations that they needed to distance themselves from, or they just didn't have resources of their own. So I thought that it would be nice to begin to do that. And then it kind of opened up this Pandora's box of other things that kind of went with that. I began to learn and understand about systems, the need to change systems. If we're going to see outcomes and improvements by any large degree, it's going to not be because an organization like Starting Over had enough beds for people. It's going to be because we looked at the underlying causes of the conditions that we see in our communities and don't want to see, and began to address them. So root cause analysis and systems change work shortly followed the starting of Starting Over.
Definitely, that's beautiful. I know that you guys have the beds. I know you have the Seeds for Change. I know that you have a participatory defense. I know you guys have a backpack giveaway coming up in August at Castle Park, I believe August 10th, I believe, this year. Just so many amazing works. I know that you do a lot of advocacy in our community to address the issues that affect us. I know recently I had the pleasure of working with you in community as we did our town hall around defending Prop 47. Are there any things that you want to kind of make our listeners aware of that you're currently advocating for?
Yes. First of all, I want to say, just between you and I don't really do anything. I have a group of colleagues now that I work with who are on the front lines every day, pouring their heart and souls into their work. And for that, I'm truly grateful.
Amen.
And so I get to work with them. And so our team right now is focused on what we're calling a bad ballot initiative that's due to be on the ballot in November. And what it has done is it's kind of muddied the water about what people's concerns and issues are. And it's blended it up into this huge lie about what Prop 47 is and isn't. And so what we see is that corporations have stepped into a partnership with public safety and have decided to put forth this narrative that snatch and grabs are at an all-time high and that retail thefts are damaging our communities, which we all know that no one wants to live in an unsafe community, and shoplifting is bad. But there are already criminal systems in place to protect the communities from that. And just because something was reclassified from being a felony to a misdemeanor doesn't mean you get to do it scot-free.
Totally.
And so, but that's the perception, the narrative. And if you're stealing something over $950, it's a felony with or without Prop 47. What Prop 47 has actually done, it took $600 million from public safety and put it into the communities, into the hands of organizations like Starting Over and others that are doing amazing work. And so that has to change according to the dominant narrative. They want that money back. So ever since Prop 47 passed in 2014 by a 60% vote in the state, there have been efforts to try and repeal it. This is the closest one. Mm-hmm. This one is scary.
Yes.
Because it's going to change. And people that I work with and love are saying, well, those snatch and grabs are horrible. That's right, they are, but they're being addressed. If you have an $8 million theft ring, that's not a misdemeanor. Prop 47 has nothing to do with that. But that's what she's, what she's hearing and believing. And so we think that if people are educated about what Prop 47 is, what this ballot initiative really is, that they're going to vote to oppose it. And that's the work that we're doing, is trying to get information, good information, and combat the misinformation, and let people understand it's bigger than Prop 47. It's really community versus corporations, and it doesn't have to be that way. corporations and communities should be able to coexist, but not at the expense of each other.
Totally.
And so that's kind of where we're at.
I hear you. I
Got
hear
you.
you.
So is Prop 47 basically, for people who may not know what it is it based off of changing the laws from misdemeanors from stealing, shoplifting, and making it a felony? Or what actually is Prop 47 for people who may not know what that is?
So Prop 47 was a 2014 ballot initiative that took 5 or 6 low-level felonies and reclassified them as misdemeanors. And that was because of prison overcrowding. So if you stole a piece of bubble gum and you had a prior for stealing bubble gum, then you would go to prison. And so the people who are smart on justice said, hey, you know what, that's kind of a lot of money, $130,000 to spend on someone to be in prison per year for this petty crime. Why don't we make it a misdemeanor? They can do up to 1 year in jail and pay a $1,000 fine, but they won't be sitting year after year after year in a prison that we are all paying for. Okay. So that passed in 2014, and ever since 2014 and that passing, there has been work to try to undermine or change it, as if the voters didn't know what they were voting for. Mm-hmm. And so there's been this misinformation. So the money that was saved from Prop 47 goes to victim services, K through 12 education for at-risk youth, and homeless and health services for reentering population. So that money used to go to public safety. And so it was reallocated. It's the first bill in this state to actually reallocate money from CDCR into the hands of community members. Cool. And so hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah, I believe so.
All right.
Let us know in the chat.
Definitely. It's very purposeful work, and I know you have a passion for it. And if you don't mind sharing, if you don't, it's totally fine. But the fact that where you once were, and now that you're a lawyer and you're out here helping shape and with your team, helping to create narrative changes and change policies and create really systemic change throughout our community, could you share a little about your journey, your personal journey?
Yeah, I kind of took the long route.
Okay.
I had, as a child, I had been in juvenile hall. As an adult, I went to prison, county jails. And so I took the long route. And so I went to law school after that life, right? And so it was very difficult to find a law school at that time that would let you go into law school, because they figured, hey, you're never going to be able to practice. They have a moral character determination process, and they look at you and evaluate your past. And so I got through that, and then I began to think the system stuff started coming into play, because you learn about it in law school. Every significant change in this country's course has come at the result of people on the ground making noise.
Civil rights. And
then the people on the ground making the noise find attorneys to take those fights into the courtroom. And so it's a process. So yes, I'm an attorney. There's some privilege with that. The fact is there should be more attorneys with my background, not fewer. I should not be an exception or an anomaly. It should be common. That door should be open to us. And so I think that it all works together. And we have to start trusting, not just because Trump's a convicted felon, but we have to start trusting people with criminal backgrounds.
You threw that Trump in there, didn't you?
I had to. So we have to begin to trust each other and the community, regardless of a criminal conviction or not. I'm still your neighbor. I still want to live in a safe community. Yeah. I still work hard.
We make mistakes. We're human.
Absolutely.
Yes, totally. When you hear that, Antonio, what comes to your mind? Because I know one of the qualifiers you have is you look for people that inspire. You know, what inspires you about hearing that journey?
The story? Yeah. Well, what I immediately, I don't want to dwell too long because I know we have other guests here, but the first thing that I immediately thought of is I always hear that inmates become their own lawyers. Because they get to the library, they start figuring out their case more, they start figuring out, okay, this is what the legal system is, and they become more aware of the legal system while they're in prison because they're trying to figure out their case on their own. And so that's immediately where my mind went. It was like, okay, usually inmates become more aware of the law because they've been in and they want to know how to protect themselves and help themselves. That's immediately where my mind went. I'm not sure if that really answered the question, but that's where my mind immediately went
No,
during the
totally.
story.
And I've seen countless examples of that. And some people like to call it the academy or the long way around, you know. So with that being said, you know, thank you, Vonia. And if you have any other questions of our guests as we interview and vice versa, if there's anything that you guys would like to ask of Vonia, the floor is yours. Any questions?
I do have one. I know that a lot of people have a hard time with people's background. And so how do when families come to you and they realize that what you do is real, you know, and that what you're representing is real, how embracing is that for them? How often do you see people more in shock or not?
Because I've done some videos and stuff, some of them know me before we actually meet in person. Most people are receptive. I do a lot of post-conviction relief, helping people who've been over-sentenced come home. And so a lot of the families are supportive and understanding. Once you've gone through the criminal justice system or your family's been impacted by it, you have a different understanding than people who haven't. You might see it a little differently. And there's lots of work to do. But I think for the most part, people have been receptive, at least in the area that I'm in now.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that most people don't know, but when you look at this entire nation, 1 out of 3 Americans are either directly impacted or system impacted, right? Imagine if that was a voting block, right? We would probably could see systemic change when it comes to community safety, the kind of investments that we want in our community for prevention and for enrichment, right? So I say all that to say, regardless of who you vote for, I want people to participate because, you know, it's sad that as a nation we hover at 50% sometimes, you know, on the general presidential elections, right? And we need to make sure everyone's voice, because everyone's a part of this country, and to make sure that their voice is heard. So regardless of who you may vote for, please participate in your local and your national elections. With that being said, we're going to go over to our next guest, Dr.
Cordero.
Yeah,
Dr. Roberto
Sound like Italian.
Cordero. I'm working on it. Dr.
Yes.
Cordero. How you doing today, sir?
So far, so good. Thank you, for the invitation.
Definitely.
I feel so good about being here, sharing my experience and my knowledge about my employer, the Black and Brown Opportunities for Profit Center. We call that in house the Bebop Center.
The Bebop.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Shout out to Kim Carter Tillman.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, when you say bebop, I immediately think of, do you know who Thelonious Monk is?
Yes.
Do you know Miles Davis? Did that inspire the name at all?
I don't know.
You have
Ms.
to talk to
Carter,
Kim.
actually started this with, a different perspective on, the two minorities that actually need the most help in the investment world.
Okay.
Well, if you could kind of fill us in on, tell us exactly what is the Bebop Center and what does the Bebop Center do?
Exactly, yes. The Bebop Center is the first of its kind, state-of-the-art economic hub with the main purpose to provide women of color entrepreneurs with access to what they need to build, grow, and scale investable businesses. The idea came from looking at statistics, in the investment arena, and the two minorities, you cannot believe it, but it's less than 2%,
Totally.
That have access to what it's needed in order to make their dreams come true.
Totally.
These two minorities have amazing ideas, that get stuck because there's no funding available for them. To give you some statistical information about the latest population numbers in the Inland Empire, Riverside and San Bernardino counties, the last population total runs around 5 million people, of which 50% are women, and of which 68% are women of color. Now, just imagine that only 2% of these 68% have access to what's needed to make, a business dream come true. So that's what we do for, these groups at the Bebop Center. We provide training and development, from just a mere idea all the way to making that business launched and, make it happen in the business world.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. Señor Roberto, tengo dos preguntas para ti.
right.
Primero, can you define what a woman of color is?
Yes.
Right? Because historically speaking, it used to only apply to Black Americans, right?
Correct.
So what does that mean now
Yeah.
to you, women of color? Number two is, does the program also give opportunities to men of color?
Yeah, women of color, as defined in our targeted audience, are African American and Latino, the two groups. Obviously, there are other women in the spectrum. So we accept anyone that fits this profile into the business academy, right? Now, what's the other part of the question?
Por señores.
Okay,
Señores.
so for now, it's just targeting, women, women of color. Perhaps eventually there might be, a push for, reaching out to men that want to become entrepreneurs, but for now it's concentrated on this targeted audience, as I mentioned, because of the statistical trends in investments.
Totally. One thing that I recommend everyone check out the Inland Empire Black Worker Center report that they had partnered with, I think it was UCLA. It's called Ain't No Sunshine. And it talks about African American entrepreneurs in the Inland Empire, and they only make up less than, not even a whole percentage point. 0.2%, right? We know that, and that's for business. I just like to always say this. That's for businesses that are on the table that are legitimized. We know that our communities often have the hustle, but they don't know how to legitimize their businesses in some certain cases.
Correct.
So I love the fact that the center is helping women for right now learn how to create their business, how to structure their business. And one of the key things you said, investable businesses.
Correct.
Which opens them up to because I know you guys get them in front of the funders, which allows them to be funded, because that's one of those barriers that you spoke about, and that we know that does exist in our community.
Correct.
But I say all that to say, I would love to hear a little of your background prior to coming to being the lead
Certainly.
at the Bebop.
Yeah, most of my career, which spans over 40 years now, I come from corporate America. This is the first time that I work for a nonprofit organization. I need to say that the Bebop Center is a subdivision of the Time for Change Foundation,
Totally.
which is entirely nonprofit. But the idea, came about from, programs that are implemented at the Time for Change Foundation, in which a tidbit of entrepreneurship is taught, to these women. So why not making it a well-rounded, version of that last part of this training program, and make it, available to the public, right? But my career has been primarily in two areas. One of them is food service, which, is probably 22 years, in which I've worked for nationwide organizations such as Burger King, Sbarro, Wendy's International. And the other half has been in the area of marketing / academia. Because I used to teach, just like LaShawn was saying earlier, I used to teach at the University of Phoenix for just 14 years.
Awesome.
In both the bachelor's and the master's program. So that's why when I saw this posting, I said, well, I can transfer some of my knowledge from academia and, kind of teach some, at the Bebop Center. And in fact, that's what I'm doing.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
but I love what I do now.
Totally. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. What has been the most rewarding aspect thus far? This being your first entry, and hopefully your last entry into the nonprofit world. Hopefully you're right into the sunset.
Yeah.
Scaling up the Bebop and all the wonderful things that Time for Change does. But how's your experience been in this world of the nonprofit?
It took me a little bit, to kind of understand, the difference between, for-profit business into the nonprofit world, But once I understood, those categorical differences, I started implementing, process changing, curriculum development, to the point that I could infuse my expertise into it. The most rewarding has been seeing women coming into the Bebop Center,
Yeah.
registering for an information session where they get everything they need to know about what we do, and then launching their business.
Beautiful.
You know, it doesn't happen overnight.
Totally.
It requires a lot of effort, you know, a lot of sweating and studying.
Totally.
But once you see them graduating, you know, from the BUILD program, which is the foundational platform, you know, for business development, then you go, wow, that's what I wanted to see.
Amen.
You know, and our numbers are growing.
I believe it.
You know, our numbers are growing. Now we have onboarded just over 100 entrepreneurs. And just in the first year, 3 months. We celebrated our 1 year anniversary on March 15th this year. You know, and we're registering more individuals. And we have a very aggressive marketing campaign that is already out there, because our idea is to expand what we do in the city of San Bernardino, you know, servicing the Inland Empire. We want that to happen in a virtual modality, you know, and have it, you know, accessible to anyone, you know, in the U.S.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, you know, I was speaking with Terry Boykins, who's the executive director at, I believe it's Project Fighting Chance.
Yes.
And he also came from the corporate world. And he was saying one of the biggest things that he didn't understand at the time, going from like the corporate world to the nonprofit, was the thing was like, who cares about your story? Because I guess the story was like, you know, I came up on hard times and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And basically, long story short, he was trying to figure out like, how do I market this and how do I do things? Because when you come from the corporate world, and correct me if I'm wrong, things are based on like a quarterly system. Like we expect this
Correct.
in a quarter,
Correct.
each quarter we expect this outcome. And so he said one of the things that he had to learn and he came across learning was empathy, was understanding how it worked, and then it eventually evolved and grown, right?
Yeah.
And so based on that, I wanted to ask you, what have you learned and what have you brought from the corporate world over into bringing success into the project that you're doing now with Bebop?
Yes. I brought in my business knowledge expertise in the sense that women come into, you know, our business academy without the foundational elements of how to, you know, create their business. Those are powerful ideas, but if you don't give them the resources necessary for them to establish the cornerstones, you know, it definitely is not going to fly. It's not going to launch, right? So that's what I brought to them. You know, giving them knowledge in terms of how to create a business plan, how to create a marketing plan, how to develop, you know, their business legally step by step. You know, form your LLC, you know, your partnerships, your corporations, right? How to, you know, create financial projections, right? Why? Because when you go and apply for a small business association loan, SBA loan, that's the first thing they ask. You know, where's your business plan, right? So we provide this in a methodic, step-by-step, you know, process for them to do it themselves. So that's one thing. The other thing is, you know, empowerment.
Amen.
You know, because that's one of the main things that I have learned working for these, you know, nonprofit organization, how to empower women that have good ideas, but they feel somewhat timid about making it happen. You know, so you have to make them believe in themselves first. You know, you can do it. You have a powerful, strong idea. Make it happen. We're gonna provide you with the resources.
Totally. Just to me, like just knowing that someone's there to support you, and it makes me think about how our communities of color have been so programmed and conditioned in this nation, particularly, right? Where you see images of people that look like you and I always cast in a negative light and this and that, and you actually see lynchings, modern day lynchings, and that affects our psyche. That affects our ambition, our hopes, our aspirations. So a lot of the work that we have to do is just believing in ourselves and knowing that we are worthy of these opportunities, that we are worthy of a chance, and that we are no different. This gift of life, that's the equalizer, is the gift of life, right? Because if you're within the gift, you can manifest, you can create,
Correct.
you know, so
Yeah.
connecting with wonderful organizations like Bebop, or if you're returning, getting into Starting Over Incorporated or Time for Changes programs. I've seen lives literally change, and it's beautiful to know that women are being reunited with their children, you know, that battle, because it's crazy. I'm not going to dive into all that, but it's atrocious how we treat our pregnant women that are held held behind the wall, how they don't have that time to even nurture with their child. That could even go into the greater system, how in other countries and other developed First Nations, how the father even gets maternity time off, right? Where we're in a constant go, profit. Don't care about the human life, you know what I mean? And I think we have to kind of refocus our priorities as a nation and put a greater value in humanity. Right. But with that being said, in our segue, I know you guys just did an amazing fast pitch program. So if you can introduce our guest to your left-hand side. And
Yes, very proud to introduce to you Ms. LaShawn Spivey Angeletti, which, you know, she's the winner of the top grand prize of $10,000 at our last fast pitch competition.
Show me the money!
Let me hold something for you. Let me hold something.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you.
You don't give me back what I gave you?
I want you to hold it for
Got
me.
you.
Precious.
Yeah.
All right, let me hold some green on it. Put some green on it, you know. My cash app is.
You can sell me at.
And before LaShawn speaks, I gotta say that, you know, she went through the process and was the most consistent participant from the application stage. So until, you know, she actually held that, you know, big check that we awarded on that day.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Well,
Hello,
thank you.
LaShawn. How
Hi,
you doing today?
Hi, everybody. I'm good. I am still tickled. I'm gonna tell you my truth. I think I sat on the check for like a week. I took about 10 pictures. Like, really? Okay.
Amen.
All right.
Amen.
Like, is this real?
Yeah. Well, no, I know it was real.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. When you walk into the Bebop Center, you know it's real.
Oh, it's
Got you.
top line.
State
of the art.
It's very, very nice. So I'm excited. So hit me with your best shot. What you want to know?
Definitely. Well, my question, we want to hear more about your business.
Okay.
And you shared a little off air, but I would love for our audience to hear it because it's amazing business. But I want to know, how did you discover the fast pitch? How did you learn about the Bebop Center? How did you?
So I have to give a shout out to one of my classmates, Lakeisha of LDR. She, when I tell you she is a Bebop advocate, this woman is telling everybody about the Bebop Center. So I had hired her to do, I met her at another community-based event, and I was like, oh, it's a black-owned cleaning company. All right, let me tighten up my pennies so I can afford some help in here. I need some baseboards done. And sure enough, she had done my house a couple of times. She was like, LaShawn, I've been watching you on Facebook, and you have so much stuff. You do so good. You need to come to the Bebop Center. I was like, Bebop? Girl, I am married. I'm not going to the club. That's what I'm thinking. You know, what you talking about? So
She trying to
she
get
was
you
like,
trapped out
yeah,
here.
stop it, lady. I thought don't you go to church?
Right.
So we laugh about that, whatever. I made fun about it. But she was like, no, she said, and she'd share with me that it was for women, by a woman. It honored women of color, how our walk is different, how the doors are not open all the time. She knows she was hitting some pain points that had my name on them.
Hey, now.
I'm like, okay, well, let me go check it out. So I set an appointment for an orientation, and when I tell you, it was like a peaceful breath. Like, whoa, I have been doing this by myself for so long.
I hear you.
And that process of when people laugh and kiki about a glorified hobby, honey, I have lived that glorified hobby where sometimes it makes some pennies and sometimes it stretched the pennies you have so bad everybody in the house looking like, why are you still doing that? You know, go back to regular work. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
Things like that. And so I was blessed with an opportunity. At the time they had a scholarship. Because my husband was looking at me like, you have husband, but you do not have extra checks. You are not spending no more of this house money. He didn't say that. I'm sorry, husband, you didn't say that. I was feeling guilty.
I hear you.
And so anyway, I was blessed to qualify for a scholarship. and applied and just I dove in. It was a safe space for me.
Beautiful.
Because that grind out there, ladies who are out there, not saying men don't have that struggle, but it is hard when you're out here by yourself. No, you don't know what you don't know. My mother-in-law says that, and I love that statement, because you bump your head all the time and trying to figure it out. And then when you find out, sometimes it's your neighbor that had all the keys. You're like, can you give me the key to get in the door, and things like that. So it was an honor, and it's been something that even when I got sick, I called, I felt obligated, like let me call, and they still were worried about me, like, no, LaShawn, take care of you. I was back in class and everybody's looking like, you good? It wasn't anything contagious or anything, but that level of respect and honor and adoration and concern about you as a woman, and then a woman of color, understanding the pain points and some of the doors that have been closed before I got to it, that I can't put dollars to that. Do you know what I mean? My previous history, I've been in education for 20 years. I'm a trained educator. I chose private sector because I got to talk about God. That's my belief. It was great. It had some, disadvantages on your check, but it gave me a lot in my spirit. And I remember feeling like, man, why can't we get some of these things in alignment? Why don't we get to really dig apart and figure out what it is that makes a difference? Well, because some of those doors are closed intentionally. Some of those doors have been locked on purpose. And for you to be educated enough to challenge a system that says no to you just because you're a woman, just because you're ancestor of color. And those things, people, they want to act like it's cliche. They're trying to take it away from our kids knowing it's real, because nobody wants to hold the accountability for the change that needs to be made. Amen. But they also want to keep the rewards that they receive for having it the way it's set up. I'm sorry, I'm going to
I hear you.
So, yeah. But yeah, so it's all of those things made a difference, and that I took off. You're right. And I thank you for honoring me and sharing that, because I got there hungry differently.
Amen.
Even the things that I had already kind of been exposed to or had done, because I had been in business for a little while, it felt different to be in a safe space where they were talking about it and say, no, hold up, let me fine tune. Or I got a virus on my website and the teacher knows how to fix it. I was like, what you want for dinner? It was crazy. That I had never been through that. Amen. That would be technically usually a setback for me, because it's going to take a couple $100. I have to go invest in somebody else to fix it, and then do all these other edits to find out with some buttons that are,
I hear you. No, yeah. It's amazing when you are able to tap into the knowledge, insight, and wisdom that others have and are willing, and this is the key, willing to share and provide. Because most people are willing. You just have to ask. Sometimes it's us having getting by us about, can you help me? I'm struggling with, right? Sometimes we have so much pride that we'll continue to struggle or bump our head against the wall instead of just saying, you know what, it's okay, I need some help, and asking for that help, because there's many people, I believe there's more good people in the world than bad, that are willing to help you and help people manifest their dreams. So that's beautiful. With that being said, the question I want to ask you, if you could kind of share what your business is, but before you answer that question, I wanted to go in, because you talked about those pennies, and when you're stretching that penny and you're stretching as thin as a millimeter, right?
Yes.
You can barely see through it. And others are questioning your drive and your vision. What helped you plow through? What helped you keep going? What helped you to continue to persevere with the vision?
So it's two things for me. It's the call on my life for my gifts and talents to step in the forefront and for them to work.
Amen.
And it's also for the torch that I need to pass for the children that I've been blessed to birth. And I say that not just from biological. I'm talking about the children that I've been blessed to birth, their dreams coming true. The children that I've touched in the classroom, the children who have been I've been entrusted to be called auntie and godmama. And I got friends who call me grandma, and we're not even that far off those things. You know what I mean?
We'll take that as a compliment.
Exactly. Yeah, but it is a compliment.
I know it is.
Because it says that you draw wisdom when I come spend time with you, and I need that in my life. That is a heavy torch sometimes, because you look around and try to figure out, do you always have it for yourself? And so what I have to continuously remind myself is that it's okay for little LaShawn to be hurt. Amen. It's okay for little LaShawn to be afraid. It's okay for her to take a break. And then it's okay for her to understand that what she has in her is so much more powerful than what the adversities that she's faced with. And now it's okay for her to push.
Well, with that being said, how does Big LaShawn take her cape off?
Ooh, I retreat. So I tell my friends laugh because I call myself the passport junkie. And the reason why is because I am on a mission every single year to figure out how to get that passport stamped. One time, 2 times, 5 times, as many times as I can. I don't care if. Listen, for less than $1,000, you can hit a plane, go to Seattle, hang out there, drive across, get your passport stamp, be in Canada, come back, and still have change when you get home. It's so many things we can do that are right in our backyard. You know, I tell people that. Find out where the hub is for the airline that you live down the street from, and then fly from hub to hub for $200.
I see. Pro tip, Jedi.
So you can do it, you know. So those are the things that I do. I do that type of stuff. I faithfully make sure that no matter how tight stuff gets, I find a way to go get a massage because I learned where I leave my stress. It's not just about the luxury of a massage, but I hold stress in my body to where it will break down before I know it. And so I'm intentional about making sure I go see a therapist and really get those muscles, you know, pulled apart.
Beautiful.
And then I also spend time to play. Yeah, so play for me is put laughter above yelling. And so
I love that acronym.
so to get to go play is I literally will find ways to, whether it's a movie or a hangout or whatever, I create parties for the kids and stuff like that just so we can hang out and laugh. When everybody's at home, because some of my children are adults, it's karaoke time.
There you go.
And so that's what I do.
Beautiful, beautiful. And what is the name of your business?
So my company is Dream Cultivator Enterprise. So you can find me at dreamcultivator.com. on every platform. And we are literally, our whole goal is to help busy women take their cape off.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Wow. So if Yanni asked the question, the first thing I thought you were going to answer, I thought you were going to say God and my husband. That's what I thought you were going to say. And what I wanted to ask you is how important has your husband been for your journey through this? Because I believe that men are the rock that women need. So I just wanted to ask you that.
Absolutely. So, and I'm gonna be honest, my husband is phenomenal. Amen. And I had to learn that I did not have to be my own husband anymore because I had been doing this for a long time before I was blessed to say yes at the altar. And he had to deal with a strong chick. I'm gonna tell you the truth. And he is a powerhouse man.
There was a lot of bucking, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, I still buck.
Okay. Oh yeah. Husband. Oh God.
I still
Get her.
But one thing that I always remind him is that the thing that I've admired, the thing that made me say yes, is that he never quits. He just never quits. It doesn't matter what it looks like. He never quits. It doesn't matter, how bad it gets. If there's silence, he just doesn't quit. And so when I'm weak, I need somebody strong enough to not quit. When I'm frustrated, when I'm bigger than myself, when my personality is in defense mode, because that's survival. That's my PTSD. You know what I mean? Somebody who can get quiet and be like, hey, we're going to do this and this and that. And I'd be like, no, I'm not. And he's like, we're going to do this and that. All right. That speaks volumes. He understands how to handle me in a gentle way, even when I'm afraid and I've put up a wall. And so that's powerful. He literally he's the one who took me out the classroom. The children gave the fire that made me want to, but at the mark that I said I do, he told me you have 90 days. He literally told me we're getting married before the school year starts because I know you'll go back to the classroom and I want you to pursue your dream by yourself.
Beautiful.
So
shout out to husband.
Excellent.
yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Shout
Mr.
out.
Angeletti is the bomb.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mr. Angeletti.
I got a question for all the three of you that's kind of related to what we just talked about. So I know majority of what you guys do here is help women, right? Get better, financially well, and stuff like that. It's been statistically proven that when women make more money, they look for men that make more money or equal to, right? So, which becomes more harder and harder because less men are making as much money as women, statistically proven now today. And so what that creates in the end is less families, less homes, because women are less willing to what they call settle, right? So how can we, when we're helping women, how can we also help them with the mindset of, hey, it's important to give certain men a chance that may make less than you, now that you're doing well as business owners and financially well, to create better families that will make better neighborhoods, better communities, which will make a better nation. So, and I'll start with you.
Okay, I just want to clarify. Starting Over provides services to both men and women.
Yes.
So we do that, and then as far as this earning gap. So there is statistically an earning gap between black men and black women, and so black women traditionally earn more than black men. Black women are more highly educated than most black men, and I think the younger you are. This is just for me, from my personal experience. The younger you are, the easier it is for the paycheck to dazzle you, right? And then you feel that you don't need anyone else. But I think as we, sometimes like between 30, 45, you begin to understand that there is much more to a relationship than the paycheck. And so I don't think black women are, at least my friends, and the generation that's below me aren't looking to match paychecks, but it's to match respect. It's to match concern and care. A lot of things that you can't quantify with dollars. It has nothing to do with money. If we have our own money, why do we need yours? So it's not that. It's, can you meet me emotionally? Can you meet me spiritually? That kind of stuff becomes more important as we mature. But I remember when I got my job right out of prison, I was ching-ching. I was working in an oil refinery, making big money, and I started looking at him sideways like, bro. And then I started walking around the house like I was wearing, the pants, the wallet, the boots, and the whole thing. And then as I began to get older, I began to understand that there was a lot more to the relationship than the paychecks. For me personally.
Yeah.
Well said.
But 45 is a little too old, most likely too old to...
It starts around 30.
Well, that's high risk for most women, right, to start carrying kids and stuff like that. Because I'm talking about, the mentality of starting families, right? Starting families, so...
Yeah.
I won't go too much, don't want to go too much into it, but that's what I was kind of...
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I totally get it, yeah.
Okay.
And maybe that question is probably best posed for our women on the panel.
Well, I think Senor Cordero has that opinion about it. He's a man.
Well, actually, yeah. And I think at the Bebop Center, how that is reflected is in the sense that women have the opportunity to create their own income stream. And it actually filters down to the employment portion of community development. Most of our women at the Bebop Center might be the sole provider at home. You see? And when they actually create their businesses and make it happen, they employ individuals, from different genders, and different ethnic groups. So that's how they contribute, to the development of the male, counterpart when it comes to, income, right? We've seen women that have struggled, just to come to the Bebop Center, okay? Because there is some suppression from, their spouses or, their significant others, right? But once they're there, they realize, what? I have the opportunity to make it happen.
And let their light shine. They can't dim their light for somebody
I
else.
cannot be dependent upon, my male, partner, to get me going, right? And we promote that. So there's still, a balance to be sought out, by both, groups. But it's happening, and we're seeing that live.
Definitely.
And I see it from the position of, because we have children that are millennials, we have children that are the XC, the little ones now, right?
Okay.
So one thing that we focus on in the house and we talk about, and I live by, our roles are supposed to be a complement, not a competition.
That part.
And so it doesn't matter how much my husband makes. Like, at the end of the day, we've been blessed that he can provide for us, even when my company is not making any money and it's still brand new and everything. However, I didn't marry him because of the money. Like, that money, I remember when there wasn't no money. You know, we dated for 10 years before we got married. If I was worried about the money, I would every 5 years I should be looking for a new man, right?
Yeah.
Because if you have a real plan, a real game plan for your company, for your brand, you should have a 5 and 10 year that's scaling. So I'm gonna scale a new man every 5 years? No. What is the compliment? What does he have greater than you? Where are his strengths? Do your strengths surround and love on his weaknesses, and vice versa? Because where he's weak, I got. And where I'm, and vice versa. And that's an area, so it can create something that's beautiful if we can stop looking at each other as though we have to compete.
Totally.
You can't take all that stuff with you.
Totally. Amazing answers. And thank you each for being here. We're circling down to our last about 3 minutes of the show. Mr. Antonio Miles, if you can share where people can find your awesome book here, as well as how to find your podcast.
So you guys can get the book. It's on Amazon, 10 Things Your Parents Should Have Taught You But Didn't. It's also in the link of my Instagram, which is, that is him. Yeah, with a H, YEAH, that is him on Instagram. If you want to follow my podcast, my program, which is called The Empire Podcast, it's on YouTube. Follow, subscribe. We got some amazing, great guests all over the world. So, thank you for having me on the show.
No problem, brother. Miss LaShawn, if you could share your information one more time.
Yes, you can find me at dreamcultivator.com, on Facebook, Dream Cultivator, Miss Spivey, and Instagram and LinkedIn under Dream Cultivator as well.
And Dr. Cordero.
Yes. Find us at www.bebopcenter.com or call us at 909-520-2267.
And Vonia?
Starting Over Inc., startingoverinc.org is our website. Our number is 951-898-0862, office at startingoverinc.org.
And also, you can find my books and works and wares and all the things at my website, motivationalrealizations.com. And before we leave, I just want to shout out the amazing Juneteenth event that we have coming up. This is in Rialto by Black the Block. Shout out to Vicky. I know that there's also a Juneteenth celebration happening at the 66ers Arena on the 15th, this upcoming Saturday. Shout out to Jaquetta and Malibu Robin, as well as there's one happening at Fairmont Park in Riverside. I believe that's on the 15th as well. I do not have the times, but be
June
sure.
15th starts at 1 p.m.
June 15th, you'll probably be tabling there, I imagine.
Definitely.
There it is.
With that being said, this is the I Love San Bernardino County radio show, and we are out of here.